It's finally happened. Football is actually upon us. Well, almost upon us. Let's talk some Chiefs, guys. Welcome to Keys to the Kingdom. I am your host, Seth Kaiser, the Chief of the North, like it says right there. This is RGR Football. You know the drill by now. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Either way, it's Monday. It's a great day to talk some Chiefs. There's a lot going on, and yet a lot of it's signal, a lot of it's noise. It's hard to say exactly what to take seriously right now. There's a few things that I think are going to be kind of dominating the headlines this week. We're here every week to talk about what I think is going to be kind of carrying Chiefs coverage. And first and foremost, before we get started with any of that, though, obviously the biggest thing that occurred in the Chiefs' final preseason game. Preseason's over, where the real football is around the corner. The biggest thing to actually happen in the Chiefs' final preseason game was their honoring of Lennie Dawson through the choir huddle. It was a really, really good moment. You know, it's kind of rare in sports. For all the romanticizing that we do of it, it's kind of rare that you have really, really great moments, moments that manage to not get unsullied by something. There's almost always some kind of noise that messes with really, really great moments, and I do think that this, in a very, very understated way, was a really, really great moment. On both sides, the Chiefs trying to figure out some way to give a hat tip to someone who was not just a great quarterback, but a great broadcaster. And by all accounts, I never had the opportunity to meet Lennie Dawson. I almost did, doing a locker room segment, but I couldn't make the trip down to Kansas City, and it was one of the biggest, so close moments of my career. But I do know many people who knew him, and every one of them has said that the accounts of what a decent and kind man he was to everyone that he worked with are not exaggerated, if anything are understated. And this was a really, really nice moment to try to just pay homage to someone who didn't just make an impact through being a great player and being a great broadcaster, but being kind. And I think it was a nice moment and a nice reminder that the thing that gets remembered ultimately isn't really the on-field accomplishments, and it's not really the things that you do professionally, but it's whether or not you were kind to people around you. And so it was a really, really nice moment. Those moments can be somewhat rare in sports coverage. And so that's the first thing that just caught my eye, and I think that pretty much everyone took out of that moment. And I would just say also, hat tip to the Green Bay Packers for declining the delay of game penalty that the Chiefs picked up on that. So it was a nice moment all around. No one ruined anything, and it's kind of rare. It feels like people ruin everything these days, but the show does go on, as they say. And so the Chiefs they're done with preseason. They are about to begin the regular season. Right now, what everyone's talking about, if we're being honest, what everyone's talking about is the fact that the NFL's top 100 list is released, and the horror Patrick Mahomes is number 8. You know, he dropped, I think, 7 spots. I think he was number 1 last year. I can't remember. When I tweeted, I can't even sum up the energy about this. I really can't. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it and have been talking about it. What does this mean for the Chiefs? Not much, really, other than you're probably going to get petty Patrick Mahomes, which is just one of my very favorite things. These lists are largely meaningless. You've got some correlation to how good players are, but it's mostly about reputation. Most players don't take it that seriously, but it's something for Patrick Mahomes to take personally. And I'm here for it. Between that and some of the other noise that's happened this offseason, I'm absolutely here for Patrick Mahomes being offended. He was offended at being number 4. I'm guessing he'll be offended about being number 8. I wrote a couple of years ago about how petty Patrick Mahomes is in the best possible way and how he takes some of this stuff personally. And so that's probably the only thing that I'm really that excited about with the whole thing. Other than that, it's mostly meaningless. What isn't meaningless, the Chiefs played their final preseason game. They did have a concussion with Trent McDuffie. Hopefully he's okay because he played brilliantly this preseason. Actually made an excellent play on third down, and got hit in the head while he was at it. Hopefully he ends up fine. What I'm going to be doing, because obviously the regular season doesn't start because now you've got this weird like a 10-day time span or whatever amount it is. I am going to be taking a look at a couple of the rookies that I haven't had a chance to look at yet. Right now, I'm looking at Leo Chanel's film. Actually, by the time you're watching this, that actually may be up on the Chief of the North newsletter. I want to look at Jalen Watson. He's a guy a lot of you have asked me to look at. And so basically, one of the things to do right now is you're kind of finalizing your opinion on the final 53 and the young guys, the guys that you haven't seen before. And that's going to be probably the predominant news throughout the week as the Chiefs trim down to 53 guys. Who makes it, who doesn't. I don't expect a ton of surprises with their 53. Their group seemed very defined with the first and second teams as they went through preseason. I think that's going to stay the same as we go. I think if you're going to look for some surprises, things that maybe you didn't expect to start training camp, but at this point, I don't think are surprises. I think Josh Gordon is probably out, and I think you're going to see Watson and Fontaine be in. I don't think that that's necessarily a surprise to anyone at this point, but it's interesting nonetheless. I think Josh Gordon came into camp with the lead on the position. I don't know if the Chiefs expected Watson to take to their offense as well as he has. I almost forgot to say this when talking about Leo Chanel. Let's just watch Leo Chanel do some Leo Chanel stuff while I yammer on about the 53, shall we? This is just one of the interesting things about Chanel is that he does seem to be solid with his run fits, the idea of what gaps to fill right out of the gate. This is one of his first snaps of preseason, and you can see here how he sees how the play is developing. He sees where the cutback lane is. He finds him. He finishes. Anyway, Josh Gordon's one guy that I don't see making the final roster given the lack of special teams contributions. The fact that he's already kind of tweeted out something that seems kind of like a thank you for the opportunity type thing. Something that I will be looking at in terms of the final 53 beyond that. I think the wide receiver group is actually largely set. Man, Chanel's fun to watch, but we can take that away now. But I am curious who gets that final spot. And I'm definitely curious about what they do with that rotation in terms at the very top. Juju Smith-Schuster received a bit of a contract massage, as it were, that increased his bonus to be active on game days. And the reactions to that, there was one or two reactions. One was people saying, oh, the Chiefs are doing a solid for Juju Smith-Schuster. The other side is saying, I think they're incentivizing him to be active on game days, which is not something that's completely unheard of for the Chiefs. So I'm definitely curious what the conversations are like in the building between Juju Smith-Schuster and the Chiefs with regards to his knee, with regards to whether or not he can be active. But they're definitely trying to incentivize him an extra $30,000 a week or whatever it is to try to be able to suit up on game days. I'm curious what his role will be. And if he can't go some weeks, what Sky Moore's role will be. He's the most obvious guy to replace him for that specific role. While Hardman and MVS might be ahead of him right now in terms of the depth chart, their skill sets aren't necessarily the same to fill that exact role that you've got Smith-Schuster in. So I'm interested in that. I'm interested in who's going to fill out the running back rotation. Right now, it looks like the Chiefs are pretty set at Clyde, McKinnon, and Pacheco in some order for those last two. The Chiefs ran the ball a little bit better in their final preseason game, largely backups against backups. But Pacheco looked a little bit better, a little more decisive. That's just something to keep an eye on. Just see what it looks like moving forward. I'm curious about it. We'll kind of see where it lands. They didn't run the ball very well the first couple of weeks, but you got to remember what a small sample size that is. And we're not going to really know what it looks like until the season starts. The Chiefs have already started some cut downs, although they haven't made it very far into them. By the time you're watching this, you are going to know more about who made the final 53. They did already release Roderick Johnson, which is kind of interesting because he was a veteran presence. They got rid of Dustin Crum, Tayon Fleet Davis, Aaron Parker, Mike Rose. Those are some of the cuts that were made on the 27th. And so we don't really know. You're going to see a ton of cuts on Monday as they try to meet the roster deadlines. That's going to largely dominate the news. Something to keep in mind as we go through this certain phase. It's really easy to look at it through a team-based perspective, but as ever, remember that these are guys who are seeing their shot maybe not play out the way they would like. And so try to keep that in mind as we work our way through these final cut downs. Hopefully a lot of these guys find a practice squad to hit, find another roster that they can make. It's just one of those things, to kind of bookend things. When you open up talking about Len Dawson, there's the human element to the game, which is very easy to forget because we watch it for the sport, for the entertainment. And obviously we don't know most of these guys or any of these guys. And so it's very easy to just take the sport side of it, the entertainment side of it. But it's funny that's how it works. But then at the very end of things, the thing that we remember most is the personal side of it. And so try to keep that in mind just a little bit, at least, as we move through this aspect of it, the personal side of it, because in the end, that's what's going to matter. So those are some of the things that I think are going to dominate the headlines this week. They're pretty obvious as we wind up to the regular season. Hopefully everyone's healthy as they get ready and get going. I'm excited to break down some of these rookies. Chanel and Watson especially are guys that I'm really excited to dig into more because I haven't broken down their snaps much. I've been kind of focused on some of the other guys so far. It's going to be fun. Chanel is a guy that after reviewing a couple games, well, I'm going to write about him. I might have changed my mind a little bit on whether or not he can at least have a role early on because I was kind of down on that going into it because of what I perceive as some limitations. But watching even just his first couple games, I think he's got a skill set to get on the field. It's just a matter of usage. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for Jalen Watson. Season is starting up soon. Guys, it is just a great time to be a Chiefs fan. Thank you for watching. I will see you on Thursday. Don't forget Wednesday, keep an eye on Twitter for the mailbag tweet. Still haven't figured out a great way to do it. I will be checking the comments from last week's mailbag, not the live stream comments, but the comments afterwards, see if there's any mailbag questions there. Other than that, sorry, start a Twitter account. I'm doing this, it could be at I'm doing this for Chief of the North mailbag #1. That's probably a terrible Twitter name, but why not? And then you would be able to reply with your Twitter questions or with your mailbag questions, and then I will get to them on Thursday. We'll be here every Monday or maybe Tuesday sometimes, depending on what day the Chiefs play, breaking down kind of briefly what the Chiefs news of the week is. It's going to be an awesome season. I could not be more excited to do this with you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, have an awesome week. And like I said, it's a great week to be a Chiefs fan.